Okay, so I just want to talk about this template system that I'm now using. You know, this is just one method, is the measured, um, turned patchwork method, which I just want to go into a little bit more. You know, it doesn't matter where you start, but what I figured out was that that if I just start with a square, any size that I'm fairly comfortable with, and start using the multiplying and dividing method to produce additional pieces, that that I can pretty much go on forever. And if I continue with that relationship, everything I have here would potentially fit together in the traditional sort of patchwork way. But at the same time, it's going to give me a tremendous amount of freedom to use each piece actually as a potential pattern piece for a design, or as a base for something else in combination or whatever. And what I'm feeling is a tremendous amount of freedom here. But really, my ultimate goal is to use what I have, and I think that's probably the one thing that I want to stick with in terms of the tradition of quilting. So how I work it is, I just pull a scrap out of the basket or a piece of fabric off the shelf. And most of the pieces that I have now aren't really giant. They're small. They've been used, chopped up. They're probably pretty much irregular shapes. And when I pull that out, I just I take the largest template that I have to see if it fits. And I cut as many of those out of that fabric as I can, because the more you cut, the more you waste. And then whatever's left over, I try to fit some of the other pieces into that. And so eventually I use up the entire scrap by using any one of these pieces, starting from the largest and then seeing what I have left and using the next largest, until the point where I'm down to a small piece that is even too small to handle as a regular patchwork piece. And those small pieces I put into a basket, which I call my sketching basket, which is really ultimately to be used in a more free-form patchwork, which I want to talk about later. So what I'm able to do here is to use everything that I have without wasting it. And I'm slowly and simply making stacks of pieces. Actually, I'm putting them in jars and bowls and things like that. And like all the A's, which is the original square that I started with, are together, and then all the B's and C's. And I use a lettering system because I like to use the numbers for the math part. And a lot of times I do set up these little things like, A plus B plus C plus D equals something, because I go back a lot of times and, I might even want to create this large D block, but I might not have a piece of fabric that's big enough. So I might then just take 9 A's of the same color and put it together and create the block that way. And then I also might just want to sew something or create some small pieces on their own, and I would use one of these sizes, because ultimately my goal is to have this big puzzle that I can work with. And this, dividing and multiplying, well, multiplying can continue. I mean, I could take 4 D's, put them together and make a big giant square. That might be a base for some other story cloth, but I would be able to create a border around it with some of the other things that I had made. So this is the logic I'm working with here. I think probably because I have so much fabric here, and I do want to talk about, why I have so much fabric here, but that's like a whole other story. So this is the way I'm going, and what's happening then is I'm ending up with a huge stash of pre-prepared pieces that might ultimately come together or might not, without the idea of designing anything and then looking for the right fabric to put into it, or going out to purchase anything that I need, which I will never do at this point anymore. So this is the math method that I'm using in terms of how I'm going forward, just to use up all my scraps. And I've spent a lot of time making pieces, which I want to show you next, but already I had an opportunity to see how one of the little stray cat pieces that I just completed fit into an empty space on the frame of the Nest of Days piece. And I'm not really sure that I'll keep it there, but the point being is that all these past moments can be used as part of the story in the cloth as I go forward.